Welcome to the podcast, Let the Prophet Speak. Today we are going to complete our study of chapter 2 of the book of Nehemiah. In the first half of chapter 2, we learned that after being given permission by the king, Artaxerxes, to the king of Persia, to go to Jerusalem and attend to rebuilding the walls, Nehemiah was sent with an escort of soldiers and officials from the king and with letters from the king supporting his mission, and he shows up and arrives in Jerusalem. So and here he is now in Jerusalem. So now, starting with verse 10, right away the opposition. I'm reading verse 10. Vayishma Sanballat HaChoroni. So a man by the name of Sanballat from Choron, and as we will learn as we go through, this man Sanballat was the head of the Shomronim, otherwise known as the Samaritans, who lived in Samaria in Shomron, an area not that far from Jerusalem. Vitovia ha'eved ha'amoni, and Tovia, who was the little Eved, meaning the slave of Ammonite origins. The Das Mikra suggests that this Tovia is the same as Toval, also Tetvez, Tovel, who we learned about from the letter written to King Artaxerxes. So if you remember, and I spoke about this in the last two podcasts, that Tovel also, his name is Tov, Tesvez, the same root, and Aleph Lamed is a name of God. Tovia is also Tesvav, right, with Yud Hey as a name of God. So it's really the same basic name. And Tov El was the one who we know wrote the letter to Artaxerxes stating that the Jews are building the walls. We should stop them because they're trying to build up a capital so that they can challenge the Persian Empire and rebel, just like they always rebel. And he successfully got Artaxerxes to place a temporary hold on the building. So it makes sense. So now Nehemiah arrives with the new decision of the king that the temporary hold has been removed and Nehemiah can now rebuild. And if you remember, when Nehemiah asked permission from the king, it was a little bit of trickery because Nehemiah didn't mention that it was Jerusalem. He just said he's going to Judea to rebuild the city of his forefathers without making it clear exactly which city he was referring to. So Nehemiah arrives with permission and help from the king, and letters telling the king's storehouses to supply him with the goods that he needs to build. However, Sanballat and Tovia, possibly the same guy, and Eved Hamoni. Eved sometimes it means an Eved, a slave, which is a derogatory term, means he was of a lower socioeconomic class, or that he was enslaved. But over here, it probably means Eved, the servant of the king. We know the archaeological evidence has actually identified the graves and the site of the burial of this person's family, of Tovia, the Ammonite, and there he was referred to as the Eved, the servant of the king, the Persian king. So this Eved is probably just meaning he was one of the king's guys, king's men, king's servants. Vayera lehem ra gedola, and they were very upset about this, really, really upset about the fact asher ba adam levakesh tova levnei Yisrael, that someone who's coming to help the Israelites, the Jewish people, has arrived on the scene. They had won the favor of the king. They were on top. The Jews were on the bottom. But now someone's come to help them. Va'avo el Yerushalayim, and Nehemiah says, and I came to Jerusalem, va'ehi sham yomim shlosh, and I remained there for 3 days, because he needed to just case out the situation and see what the situation on the ground was, so that he should know what exactly the monumental task that lied ahead and how best to accomplish it. Very intelligently, Nehemiah realized that if he would get up and make an open survey in the middle of daylight in front of everyone, that it would stir up a lot of opposition. It would be clear what his plans are, and before his plans become obvious, he wants to get started so that they can't squelch it to begin with. So therefore he did the following, verse 12, V'akum laila, I got up in the middle of the night, ani v'anoshim ma'at imi, just a few men with me, just a few people I needed to help me. V'lo higadeti l'adam, and I did not tell anyone, ma Elohai nosein elibi, what my God has placed in my heart. Nehemiah understood that this mission was a mission in honor of God, and understood that his desire to rebuild the city walls and the temple was a godly mission. La'asos liYerushalayim. I did not tell anyone what my plan was for Jerusalem. In other words, Nehemiah arrived from the king without announcing, I'm here to build Jerusalem. Uvehema enemy, I didn't have animals with me. Someone who would come to build would come with all of the work animals, would come so on, but he didn't. But the only animal I came with was the animal I was riding. So no one really understood, which is why before it said that Sanballat and Tovia, the troublemakers, they had heard that someone came to help out the Jews, but they didn't know exactly what the nature of this help was. They knew that Nehemiah, it would have been well known who Nehemiah was, who his family was. We knew that he had family in Jerusalem. It would have been known that he clearly came to help them, but that he intended to actually rebuild the city, it was kept a secret. And I went out through the Shar Hagai, the gate that faces the valley, which would be which would be south, maybe a little east. It's mostly southward. Facing towards the well, where the tanin, the jackals, would hang out and get drinks, I guess. The El Shar HaAshpos, and then I continued walking in, which seems to have been a clockwise direction towards the Shar HaAshpot, the Dung Gate. But he shover b'chomot Yerushalayim asher heim prutzim, and he sover, not shover. So shover would be break. Sover means I searched out, I surveyed the walls of Jerusalem, and I saw that they were broken down. Visharel klubaish, and I saw that the gates that were supposed to be there, the doors were all burnt in flames. V'evar el shar ha'ayin, I kept on going around towards the gate of the spring, v'el brechat hamelach, and towards the pool of the king. Ve'ein makom la behema la'avor tachtoi. There was no, I had to duck because there was no space for my animal to walk beneath us. In other words, it was full of rubble, and there wasn't even space to walk with my animal. So I went up the Nachal, the riverbed, during the night. And I continued my survey of the wall. And I kept on going all around the city, going and coming, presumably going and coming through the holes in the walls and through the gates, the gateways, in order to survey, which ones were open, which ones were closed, which ones were burnt, which ones were destroyed, etc., until I got all the way back around to where I started, which was the gate of the valley. V'hasigonim lo yadu ono halachti. The sigonim, these are the officers, the government officers that were in charge of the city. But the Sigan is not the guy in charge himself, but his people, his guys who were, second in charge, who it would have been their job to know what's going on in the city. They had no idea where I went, Umani Osan, that what I was doing. I managed to do this completely in secret. V'la Yehudim, v'la Kohanim, v'la Chorim, v'la Skonim, v'la Osei HaMalacha ad Kain lo higadati. And to all of the Jewish people, and to the priests, and to the Chorim, which would be the noblemen, v'la Skonim, and the guys, the officers in charge of the city, and to the other people who were doing the work, who officially would have been appointed to do the work. In other words, even the people on my side, even the Jews and the priests, they had no idea. I hadn't yet even notified them. Nehemiah knows that once the announcement is made, everyone knows. He'll never be able to make a public announcement and say, don't tell the Shomronim, don't tell Sanballat and his crew. Obviously, once it's out, it's out. V'omar alehem, and I told him, Atem ro'im. So this sounds like here now he must be giving a speech. This is the next day after he'd done his search. He now knows what the situation is. I told the people in public, Atem ro'im hara'a asher anachnu ba. You all see this terrible situation that we are now in right now. Asher Yushalayim chareva. Jerusalem is a ruin. Ushi'areha nitzu ba'esh. And her gateways are completely destroyed in flame. L'chu v'nivneh et chomat Yerushalayim. Let's get up and let's go and let's build the wall of Jerusalem. V'lo niyeh od cherpa. We should no longer be a disgraceful embarrassment. This is just a disgrace that the city of God, the city of God's temple, the city of the Jewish people should be in such a state of ruin. V'agid lahem, and I told them at Yad Elohai asher tova elai, that the hand of God was being good to me. V'af divrei hamelach asher amar li, and I told them that which the king had told me. Obviously, the first thing the people are thinking, well, didn't the king say we had to stop building? Isn't that why it's destroyed? But Nehemiah said, no, now I have the king's support. Vayomer, when they heard that they had the king's support and that I was here and that God was with us, they said, Nakum uvaninu, let us get up, let's build. Vayechazku yedeim latova, and they strengthened themselves in order to do something good, something special, something that they would have been afraid, that they were afraid to do before, but now knowing that I was here to lead them, knowing that they had the backing of God Himself, and knowing that they had the backing of the king, let's do it. Vayishma, of course, verse 19, Sanballat Choroni v'Tovia Hevet Hamoni. The Sanballat of Choron, now, of course, once the announcement is public, the enemy hears about it. So Tovia Hevet Hamoni, so Sanballat and Tovia, the same two guys we mentioned before, V'Geshem Arvi, and now we're adding another guy named Geshem, the Arvi, the Arab. Vayaligulanu, they made fun of us, they laughed. This is a typical tactic of the enemy. Rather than, they knew he had the support of the king, but they just laughed. They wanted to demoralize the people. What a joke. Vayivzu aleinu, and they made fun of us. Vayomer, they said, Meh hadover hazeh asher atem osim. What is this that you guys think you're doing? Halam elach atem ordim. You think you're going to build up a city to rebel? Immediately they planted the seeds of the accusation that they were about to make. And as we know from the history, which I've mentioned before, this was the accusation that they made, which got the building to stop and get destroyed in the first place, by telling the king, don't you know Jerusalem is a city of rebels? They're building up a big city that's defensible. They want to make a capital. They want to secede and make their own independent state. They want to rebel against the king. So they started to make fun. You think you can rebel against the king of Persia? What do you think? You think you're going to succeed in this? What do you guys think you're doing? And Nehemiah answered them. And he answered them the following words. And this is the way one should answer. And he said, and I, Nehemiah is speaking in first person. This is not common for Tanakh, but here we see it. He's speaking in first person, saying, and I answered them as follows. The God of the heavens, He will make us successful. And we are His servants. We are going to get up and we are going to build it. And to you, you have no portion in Jerusalem. You have no justice, meaning you have no just claim to Jerusalem. This is not yours. This is our city. V'zikaron, you will not even be remembered in Jerusalem. You will be gone. Forget it. You think you're claiming that Jerusalem is yours and not ours? No, it's ours. It belongs to the people of Yehuda, the people of Israel. It belongs to us. We are here. We are going to build it. You guys wanted to destroy it. You guys don't want a part in it. Remember, those members of the other nations who did join the Jewish people, and we'll see in Nehemiah as we go through, that there were many people that converted and joined. But these guys, Sanballat, and so on, and Tovia, they were not interested in joining the people of God. They wanted to make trouble. They wanted to cause problems. They wanted to bring Jerusalem to ruin and destruction. These people have no part in it. They will have no memory there. And so ends chapter 2. Thank you so much for studying chapter 2 together. Looking forward to studying chapter 3 and, of course, the rest of the beautiful book of Nehemiah together.